Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Chainlink. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below, and you can also see right here. Let's go ahead and jump in. So you guys know we like to talk about Link a lot on the channel, and the primary reason, just from a data perspective, it has a really attractive trend against Bitcoin, not only against USD, but more importantly against Bitcoin. For instance, over the last 2.5 years, it's gone up approximately an order or 2 orders of magnitude against Bitcoin. We've done videos before on a realistic time frame for $100 Chainlink. We've done videos that speculated on whether $1,000 link is even possible during this market cycle. But in this video, we're just going to take a look at where we are. We're not going to make any crazy price predictions, but just look to see where Link is in the grand scheme of these micro bubbles that it experiences against Bitcoin. So again, subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. Help me get to 50,000 subscribers, and let's go ahead and jump in. So this chart here is the Link Bitcoin valuation on a linear scale versus days since inception. And one of the things about this is that it shows there's actually some exponential growth going on of Link against Bitcoin. And the red data points are what I deem to be non-bubble data. And this was just figured out using some derivatives and identifying rates of change and where I would consider it to be non-bubble data versus bubble data. And we fit it to an exponential fit. Now, the first thing we know, as we've said before, is that the exponential fit will not hold forever. Link will not gain in value against Bitcoin exponentially forever, right? Most likely, it just simply won't. However, as long as it does, it can be a really fun trend to ride. And we said this a year ago. We identified this trend a year ago. And back then, a lot of people were saying, okay, well, obviously, it's hindsight. It doesn't mean it's going to continue. And I would agree with those people, right? There's no guarantee that it was going to continue. But in fact, it has. And it might be hard to see it on this type of chart because it's a linear chart and it's hard to see what's going on. If we switch it over to a logarithmic chart, which means each major tick is an order of magnitude, you can, and this is in Satoshis, by the way, you can see the general uptrend that we are in. And you might say, well, how is this exponential? Because it looks like it's linear. It's linear, but it's on a logarithmic scale. So it's exponential growth. And this is an exponential fit. And we've fit it essentially to these red data points that you see, what I would consider to be non-bubble data. It has not been fit to the current price, right? So I have not refit it to where we currently are. But the interesting thing now is that time and time again, after these micro bubbles of Link against Bitcoin, we come back to this region. And let's look to see what happens when we get back to this region. Well, a lot of times we start to find some support. And this is the Link Bitcoin valuation, so please do not confuse it with the Link USD valuation. One nice thing about Chainlink, and it's why I've said it's a great coin for me to have in my own portfolio, and it's not financial advice, is that by having it, so in any coin, with any coin, there's idiosyncratic risk, and that's the risk exposure to that coin. There's also the market risk. So by owning Bitcoin and owning Chainlink and owning Ethereum, you have the idiosyncratic risk of each of those individual cryptocurrencies. But by combining more and more of them, having more of them, you're able to reduce that idiosyncratic risk by having a slightly diversified portfolio. Now, I'm definitely not for having a ton of coins, right? I focus on a few coins: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and Polkadot. Those are the main 5. There's a few others we talk about from time to time, but those are the main 5 that take up the majority of my portfolio, and in that order: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and DOT. And I think Link is a great coin to have because it tends to move up against Bitcoin. It's really great to trade back and forth against Bitcoin. For those who don't like to trade and you're just looking to hold Link for a few years, there's probably nothing wrong with that. As long as when the time comes, if you are able to identify the blow off top, which we'll try to identify on the channel as well, then hopefully you would take profits at that point. However, again, this is a really nice trend to be in for the Link Bitcoin valuation, and we'll continue to see how long it holds. So when we get up into these regions up here, people go crazy, the Link Marines come out, and it's great to see, the support. But we also have to recognize that, you know what, when it gets to this level, it's moving up even too quickly for an exponential fit, right? It's just that far overvalued in the short term, and we've always retraced back down to this general exponential fit. Like every time we've come back down to it, and where are we now? We're right back in the Goldilocks zone. Now I can't tell you if it's going to go down further. It could. You can see sometimes we've come down further. So this middle line would be like the fair value. And down here, we're getting into, say, undervaluation territory according to this exponential fit. You can see we have come below it before. There's nothing precluding us from coming back below it again. But one of the things that's nice is that these assets tend to move in opposite directions. So Bitcoin and Link tend to behave differently. Now, on the macro scale, if Bitcoin, if you have a year where Bitcoin's generally trending up, Link will also trend up. But there's also been many days where Bitcoin trends down, but Link trends up. And the only way this is possible is because, or at least we can see the evidence of this, because we know that over the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, I'm so used to saying 2.5, but it'll be 3 years here, basically about now. Over the last 3 years, Link, or the entire cryptocurrency market capitalization as a whole has gone through a bear market. The asset class has gone through a bear market. And despite that, Link has gained on Bitcoin. And that's important because most altcoins have bled against Bitcoin during that time. They're down significantly. Link did not get the memo that altcoins have to bleed against Bitcoin during a bear market. It just simply did not get that memo. And I hope that memo is never delivered to it, or at least not in the short term. Now, let's look at it on a log scale. So I really like this chart because now it also shows time on a log axis as well. So this would be 10 days, 100 days, 1,000 days. So we're, as we continue to move up, it's becoming, each tick is representing more and more time. But you can see we're nicely moving up this curve, okay? We're nicely moving up it. Now, one of the things we've talked about before, again, is the price of Link and what it does when Bitcoin's above the 20-week moving average, and it tends to go parabolic. We've identified this way back over here in 2019. When Bitcoin went above the 20-week in early 2020, Link started to move up. But it was the fact that Bitcoin then corrected back down in March, we all remember that temporarily put a halt on it. But once Bitcoin got above the 20-week again, it went parabolic, up about an order of magnitude, again, which is what we've seen time and time again. Now, this instance is different from prior instances because in the past, after these parabolic moves, well, Bitcoin went below the 20-week. And during that time, Link didn't really do a whole lot as measured from when Bitcoin went below to when it went back above, right? Maybe it went down and then up, or up and then down and then up. But from where but essentially it moved sideways during that time period. But when Bitcoin's above the 20-week, this is when Link gains the most value in USD. Historically speaking, this would be the time where Bitcoin would break through the 20-week to the downside, and Link would then have to figure out, okay, what is it going to do? However, there's a chance that we are now in a bull market and maybe we just keep going up. Remember, we know what Link can do in a bear market. We know what it can do in an accumulation phase. We don't know what it can do in a bull market. We have no idea. And this is why I've said, Link is an asset, in my opinion, that is too risky not to hold. You think about all these different coins, throwing money in a ton of different coins. But really, I find that focusing on a few coins is a lot better. You can identify the trends between the assets, and it's better to identify the winners, right? Do you want to pick a coin that just trends down, or do you want to identify winners that are trending up and that are consistently trending up? And I typically just go with the data. And here's the Link Bitcoin valuation, color-coded based on whether Bitcoin is above or below the 20-week. You can see that no matter what, Bitcoin has trended up pretty much systematically, no matter whether Bitcoin is above or below the 20-week moving average. Now, this chart is probably the most useless chart because it's just a fair value logarithmic regression fit. The reason why it's somewhat useless is because we just don't have a ton of data. We really don't know what Link is capable of doing. I used to have an old one of these. We updated it in the last video because we need to update it every year or so, otherwise it gets out of date. So this is I think I refit this about a month ago. So this is the fair value. And you can see that we've, up in this red band is the overvaluation band. Now, if we were to go to the top of this band, you can see it would be around $40 to $50 in the short term. But it's just to give you an idea of where Link is and kind of where it is in the grand scheme. Now, this is, I think, the most important chart, and this just simply shows the Link Bitcoin valuation. Okay, the Link Bitcoin valuation versus time with a color-coded risk metric. And this risk metric has been very useful to me time and time again in identifying accumulation phases of Link against Bitcoin and identifying selling times of Link against Bitcoin. And you can see that the risk metric goes from 0 to 1. And when we get into this 1 territory, when it goes to 1, it typically means it's overblown and it's going to come back down. However, it doesn't tend to come back all the way down to, 0 to 0.4. It tends to find support between 0.5 to 0.65 Link Bitcoin risk. And if we take the color code out of it and just plot the risk on the secondary y-axis, you can see the yellow line, which corresponds to the secondary y-axis. We're in that reaccumulation zone now. Now, there's also, and then you can see the general overvaluation zone way up here where Link tends to peak against Bitcoin. It's just a systematic move back and forth. And every time we peak, a lot of people will say, oh, well, maybe this time's different. Maybe we will keep going up. And of course, there's always a chance that we keep going up. But I tend to be a little bit more conservative and say, you know what, I'm going to stick with the data and recognize that it's at this point that, I would definitely want to take profits myself. If you guys want access to this risk metric, there's also I also use the Link USD risk metric to identify buying. And if you follow the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com, you know that Link went down to less than 0.5 risk when it went down to $7, a little less than $8. It was like $7.50. It was below 0.5 Link USD risk. And then it also went below Link USD risk of 0.5 a few weeks ago at $8.40 or so. And so if you were on the premium list, we put out these alerts and said, okay, we're in the reaccumulation zone of Link Bitcoin. We're also on reaccumulation, at least for more of a conservative risk tolerance approach for, say, Link USD, wanting for it to be below 0.5. Now, it's not below 0.5 right now. I've often contended that if you don't own Link, you could just stick with this risk metric rather than also the Link USD. The reason why I also do Link USD risk is because I really want to make the most of my investments, right? I would rather be patient and wait than and hit those $7 marks, those $8 marks, and it is dynamic, so it is moving up. So as we say this, like, the Link USD risk, what it's considered to be is dynamic. It is moving up, and it's in fact higher than $8 now. But generally speaking, as we've said before, I think that Link is a coin. It's an asset that it's too risky not to hold. And so I would encourage people to at least investigate the trends, and then you can figure out if it's something that you think is worth investing in. Now, the one thing I will highlight is that there's no guarantee that we hold support in this risk band between 0.5 and 0.65. As you can see, back in 2018, we dipped down below. If this were to happen, I would consider this an incredible opportunity, because I don't think that if it does happen, I don't think Link is going anywhere. And what would cause this to happen? What's a plausible scenario where this could happen? Well, I think the main scenario where this could happen would be if Bitcoin goes parabolic. And it already is going somewhat parabolic, but imagine Bitcoin goes to 20K, 30K in the short term and then comes back down. But in the short term, if Bitcoin does that, there's a good chance that Link will bleed against Bitcoin because they tend to move against each other. By having both assets in your portfolio, they improve your covariance matrix and increase your risk-adjusted returns in calculating out your Sharpe ratio on your maximum Sharpe ratio, which identically exists on the efficient frontier. Modern portfolio theory. So if we were to do something like this, then I would consider it an opportunity. If we don't, then it's just business as usual, right? It's business as usual. We may expect to see some turnaround point here. And the way that we could see a turnaround point here is if Bitcoin cools off. Even if Bitcoin drops, it's currently about 40% above the 20-week moving average, Bitcoin is. So even if it were to drop, you could still argue that it's still well enough above its 20-week, unless it drops by, all the way down to the 20-week, that a Link move could still be catalyzed, right? A Link move could still be catalyzed because we know that Link performs well when Bitcoin is above its 20-week. Bitcoin is about 40% above the 20-week. So even with a 10 or 20% drop, there's still a good chance that Link could rally against Bitcoin. And I think we've already started to see some of that, right? There's been a couple days recently where Bitcoin has been pulling back. Link has been moving up, and that's because a lot of times they tend to move against each other, especially when Bitcoin is slightly bullish. So the best thing for Link right now would either be for Bitcoin to move sideways, or even if Bitcoin bled a little bit, I think it's fine. I really do think it's fine because we're so far above the 20-week. Even if Bitcoin were to bleed a little bit, I think it would most likely be fine. There's a chance that Link USD could bleed in the short term, if depending on how quickly Bitcoin bleeds. But if it's just like a slow thing, like a couple $100 here or there, what's a couple $100 among friends, then I think Link will be doing quite well. Now, I just want to remind people that if you guys do like the content, we do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. I was working on upgrading the website the last couple days, so people were not able to sign up for the monthly subscription. If you want to sign up, it should be working now, so you can feel free to check it out. And if you want to, you can sign up with crypto and pay for 6 or 12 months. If you pay for 12 months, for instance, you get a 15% discount approximately. Now, you get a whole lot of stuff with this. You get access to weekly reports, weekly premium videos, a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade, a dynamic DCA selling dashboard, which is how people can investigate various selling strategies and kind of what you're leaving on the table if you have too high of a risk tolerance. Also, you get access to a premium Telegram alerts group and a chat room. And then that's 6 things, and I'm adding a 7th thing. The 7th thing is now I'm starting to publish some of the TradingView indicators for people on the premium list. And I will try to publish a link one at some point over the next few weeks. So if you guys want access, make sure you check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. And I will see you there. You'll get an email, and then you can just follow the directions. So from here, I just want to take a brief look at the actual TradingView charts. This is the Link Bitcoin valuation, or the Link Bitcoin valuation on a logarithmic scale. And we've said many times, right, this is a trend we want to be a part of. And recognizing that there's a good chance we're coming up to the lower part of the support line. I've done a poor job of drawing it, but as I showed you on the PDF that we just went through, we are getting to a pretty historic support level. And just remember that these bubbles will form. Some are more magnificent than others, right? But these bubbles will likely continue to form of Link against Bitcoin throughout the market cycle. And Bitcoin is doing quite well, right? This is our logarithmic regression fit to non-bubble data of Bitcoin. This is our fit to the peak. I think, in terms of a market cycle, Bitcoin's just getting started. I feel like we have a long way to go. There's going to be good months. There's going to be bad months, right? There's going to be months where it might be kind of scary because even in a bull market, Bitcoin will retrace to the 20-week moving average, right? We know this. This is something we've identified a long time ago. And it's nothing to be scared of, right? You just have to recognize that it will likely happen. We'll see retracements to the 20-week moving average, and it'll happen quite often. You can see during the last market cycle, it happened fairly frequently, actually, seeing 20 to 30% corrections, sometimes 40% corrections to the 20-week moving average, and it happened time and time again. If that happens, if Bitcoin's testing the 20-week, it usually puts a halt on altcoins, but it's fine, right? I mean, I just focus on Bitcoin during that time, wait for Bitcoin to figure out what it's doing, if it's going to hold it, let it pump if it does, and then once it pumps, you can take profits back into some of the other coins. Not that it's financial advice. So here we are with Bitcoin. You can see that Bitcoin has now poked its head above its logarithmic regression band. It's coming up for air. If we consider this kind of to be like the ocean, it's peeking its head above it, saying, oh, it's nice to be finally above the ocean, or playing in the sandbox, as we like to say for the last year or two. Let's look to see what's above it. Now, I don't know if Bitcoin's going to continue to rally in the short term, or if it will come back down and then continue on. However, I still think that the Link is in a pretty good spot. And remember, I mean, looking at Link at a value of 1280, I'll just remind you, and this might make some people kind of sick to their stomach, it was 135 earlier this year. It was literally 135, almost an order of magnitude lower than the current price. And I do think that in the grand scheme of a market cycle, Link is still just getting started. I do think that it has a really bright future ahead. There will come a day when there will be a nasty bear market, most likely. And on this channel, we're trying to try to get ahead of that, right? To try to identify when that's going to happen. And as you can see with Bitcoin right now, we're nowhere near this overvaluation phase, and the next few years could be bumpy, right? It's not just going to go up monotonically, and therefore there will be a lot of volatility in cryptocurrency. But there's no free lunch, right? If you're trying to get an amazing return, there is going to be a lot of risk associated with it. A lot of times in traditional finance, risk is measured in terms of volatility, and there is a lot of volatility in cryptocurrency. So again, there's no free lunch. If you have to, you can take the risk or you cannot take the risk, and we'll be here every step of the way. So as a reminder, if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel in the description below and turn your notifications on. You can check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com, and also the Telegram channel. As I said, you can find that in the description below. Make sure you subscribe. Help me get to 50,000 subscribers. Maybe more people can hear about Link, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.